So anyway, I'm still in Gimp here on this tutorial. I'm going to add the window crank and the door handle in this tutorial. So obviously, if you know about cars prior to the 1990s or so, the vast majority of cars didn't have power windows, and the Vega was an economy car, so it didn't generally have them. I think they were an option, because they were an option on most cars, but going back to the 60s. But they were not usually standard. There are a lot of strong arguments for this, actually, because, but I won't get into that here. So I've added an additional layer there to add the window crank. So that's a window crank. And I have to remove that white background. So as before, I have to use the free select and select the edge, around the edge anyway. This one requires a few more points because it's more round than the door. So I move around the edge here. As you'll see, I'll have to make 2 attempts at this. This is not going to work the first try because it's in slight perspective. That doesn't have to be a problem with something so small on the model, but I do want to do a proper crop. So moving around the edge here. The way this tool works is you can either drag and drop, or you can click, move, and then click, which is what I'm doing here. It's actually better for more precise things because very few people have a steady enough hand to just do the drag thing. I shouldn't even say drag and drop. It works more like a pen tool, actually. That's a better description. But, most people, you don't want to try that. It's too messy. So, see, the perspective here is creating some confusion because I can't tell what's a shadow and what's the actual crank. So I'm taking an educated guess about how imprecise the photo is. And this will have to be cleaned up, ultimately, as you will see. So try to hug it as best I can there. Definitely a lot of guesswork involved. And invert the selection as before, clear, and then the background is empty. So, as you can see, it doesn't look right, so I'm going to have to shave that lower left corner of it there. But I wasn't as far off as I was worried I was going to be, at least aesthetically anyway. So it's continuing to, or I am continuing here, those are my hands, to shave it in a convincing way. This probably will lose me some detail, but this is a lot of compromise as usual. And because I had enough time, I decided just to loop around the whole thing to make the cropping process a little bit better. Although, obviously, this consumed some time. Ultimately, this tutorial video is as long as the last one, even though I have done far less on this one. It's basically more labor intensive than the last tutorial. So invert selection, clear. Now it looks a little bit better. So now it's actually usable. So that means deselect, copy the whole thing. One step I omitted there was that I had to do select all prior to the copy. Then I have to eye the size based around that hole in the door for the crank using the scale tool. If it's close, it's suitable because I don't have the correct scale anyway. It fits almost perfectly, actually. But I liked this stuff to look realistic, so I've rotated it a little bit because you would almost never see it perfectly horizontal like that in a real car. It's just not, the engineering is just not that fine, you know. I think it wouldn't even be that fine on a Bentley. And then I've opened another file for the exterior door handle, and I'm actually going to act as if it's the interior door handle because they look a little bit alike in a lot of cars, and nobody's likely to notice. First of all, of course, I'm saving the crank in case I need it later. But there's the door handle, and this is the exterior door handle. You can see how it's designed to be pulled up instead of horizontally out. But because it looks like what it is, looks like a door handle, you'll see that I can use it in greatly miniaturized form for the interior door handle, even though it's not authentic. Again, it's unlikely anybody's going to notice when it's so tiny, but I want to have it there because if I don't have it there, people will complain about that, possibly. Of course, there are some other flaws in how I'm doing this. In particular, because I incidentally I added another layer there for the door handle. Yeah, see, so I scaled it down. But what I was going to say is that I don't have the side panels for the back seat in the Vega. I just don't have them, and so I'm probably just going to have to compromise and go without them, which will not look particularly wonderful. Here I'm rotating it to fit. But that's life, I guess. I'm going to try and do the dashboard a little bit better, though, because that will be the next step after I install these into the interior texture. So anchor it there, and it's more or less done. That'll do. So that's it. Thanks for watching.